Good morning, everyone. Today is April 28th. I will call to order our Board of County Commissioners regular meeting.
Commissioner Stottlemyre.
Present.
Commissioner Harris.
Present.
Chair Waymire.
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson.
Present.
Commissioner Dunn.
Present. If you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, today's invocation will be led by Pastor Scott Dickinson of the Michigan Valley United Methodist Church. Good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to say it's good to see all your smiling faces for most part. After all this time we've had this last year, I've been encouraging folks and, that God's got this. And here we are a year later. And I appreciate all the work that the commissioners and the staff from Franklin County have put in, going through the testing and the things that were set up to give shots. I think, the county did a tremendous job of that when we went to get our second shots. Well, first handshake and second. The way things ran was awesome. And I think to be commended for the work that our county has done to get us to this place. So you have my appreciation, and you've had my prayers. All right, let's pray. Lord, we're grateful for your love for us. And in this last year, as I said, you've got this. And here we're coming out this end. Things are getting better. And we're out and about. People practicing, most people practicing the practices that we've learned, kind of like everything I need to learn. I learned in kindergarten about washing our hands and doing all of those sorts of things. But Lord, we thank you for just being there for us and guiding us through. I'm thankful for the guidance and the wisdom you've given to our county commissioners and staff and everybody as they've guided us through some difficult time here. And continue to pray for them and as we go into the future, as things unlock and open up. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you for all the staff that's just put in time and effort and made these things happen. We thank you for the great county that we live in. And living in the rural area as we do, it's great to see the tilled soil and a reminder again of things that are growing. And see the cattle out in the fields and all of those things that remind us of your goodness to us and that things are growing, things are going on, and we're grateful for that. I continue to ask for guidance and wisdom for the commissioners and, Lord, that the things that they have to handle, Lord, just be with them and all of those things. Be with their families. I know this has been tough on families. Be with their families and their friends and continue to keep people well and safe. And Lord, we're just grateful again for all that you do for us and all you're going to do for us in the future. Lord, thank you. And thank you for this group of people. I ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. All right, correspondence and organizational business. I understand Dr. Ransom's here to talk to us about opening back up our meeting.
Yeah, and if you look at our headers on our meeting agendas, we mention in there that at this meeting, we're going to discuss the possibility of opening back up our meetings to the public. And so we've asked him to be here today and share his thoughts. So, Dr. Bud.
Okay, thank you for having me. I think I've talked with Derek about this. And I think we've come to the conclusion that you can open up meetings. Much in this scenario that we have here, I think it's relatively safe. That doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. I think it will. But these variant viruses are a little bit worrisome, and they could resurface. But we've had pretty good response with vaccination in the county. I'd like to see it better. And I think as that continues, the risk goes down. I think there is a large population of people who have had the virus. We haven't documented some of them. So that combined, those people have some immunity. And of course, the people who have been vaccinated have better immunity, especially to the variant viruses. So I'm optimistic that things will get better, and I think this scenario much as you're doing right here, would be safe to reopen.
And so,
We also talked about opening the visitor center.
yeah.
Do you want to address that?
Yeah, let's get through the meeting portion of it first.
Okay.
So you're recommending, I mean, if, and the public can't see this, but behind you, we have a, socially distanced seating, and it's a more limited capacity. Your thoughts are that if we continue with the socially distanced seating, that we could go ahead and open back up at this point, correct?
Yes, I agree.
And as we talked, if as we transition into the fall, none of us want to see this happen, obviously, but if we see a resurgence of this, then it's entirely possible that you're back in here with a different recommendation at that point.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any questions about opening back up our meetings with the current arrangement where we're distanced? Any questions from the?
I said to Rod this morning, do you think that we'll ever get to be back to the big person's table? Do you think we should stay in this arrangement? And
Well, I
not
think
all
this,
people?
for now, I think this is good. I mean, it's just an added measure of safety. I think, I think you'll be able to get back to that. I just don't know when. We've had, the number of new cases this month, in the last month, has really declined. Also, there's been a more casual attitude about mask wearing and social distancing than I would like to see. That could portend that we're going to see more cases again. So, I think we just have to see. But for now, I think this seems to be an acceptable and pretty safe arrangement.
Okay.
Awesome.
Any more questions for Dr. Budd on the meetings?
I just got one question. A lot of places, they take your temperature before they let you in. Is there any advantage to doing that?
I don't know I don't know how useful that has been. We did that for months in the office, and I don't think we ever had a positive, case. I guess it would find somebody who is really sick, but so many people have minimal symptoms. I don't think it excludes people. It's not a very good screening technique. It's one of those trial and error. You try it and see. I don't think it's worked very well.
Okay. Anything else on meetings? Okay, the other item involves the visitor center. Both Casey and I believe all of you have been contacted by one of our volunteers. I believe the volunteers are ready to go back and start working at the visitor center and discussing it with Casey. It's going to take her a couple weeks, I think, just to get things laid out and organized, but I think we're ready and have the volunteers that we could open it back up. So what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Budd?
Well, hopefully the volunteers would be vaccinated if they are doing this. Anybody who works there, I don't know that you can mandate that, but you can strongly encourage it.
I believe that they are.
Okay.
I believe that's the case.
I mean, that would help a lot.
Yeah.
I think the same kind of procedures that we're all getting used to would be, should be followed. I mean, people ought to wear masks in there. We don't know about people coming from outside.
Yeah.
I think we could insist that people coming in wear a mask. Have hand sanitizer available, all the things we're getting used to.
Yeah.
And I think it would be reasonably safe to do that.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to open up and just see what kind of traffic we have through there,
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's fair enough. Any thoughts, questions, concerns about that?
I think Bud stated it pretty good. I mean, as long as we still play it safe, and I do believe, at least the person that talked to me said that the volunteers had been vaccinated a month ago or 2 months ago. They're all in that category. I mean, that don't make it 100%, but I think the person that talked to me is kind of a spokesman for them and knows everybody on that list, and And so as long as we protect the public plus, and if we realize that they still have to mask and come in the building masked, I don't see a big deal.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Bud while we have him? Will, why he's here, take the opportunity to commend him. He has been an incredible help to us, and as staff, I don't know where we'd be without his leadership and guidance throughout this. So Dr. Bud, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Derek.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else? I'd be happy to answer other questions. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. All right, do we have any public comment today, Janet?
No, sir.
All right. Our consent agenda today would include tax change orders in the amount of negative $202.06, meeting minutes from April 21st, payroll in the amount of $1,221,555.44, and solicit bids for replenishing our tire stock in Public Works. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, down to items of business, the first of which is to discuss the 2021 TGT sponsorship applications.
Good morning, Commissioners. So each year, the county gives sponsorships to events and programs in the community out of our transient guest tax fund. And just for your perspective, in 2018, we gave $3,300. In 2019, we gave $4,300. In 2020, I know the impact was much less than that. I think we gave $3,000 to a couple of different events. One was the tractor show because they had a lot of fun that they had already put into the tractor show and then had to cancel, so we helped cover that. And then the other was the Rhythm and Ride bike event that was given to them, contingent that they were able to have the event, and if they wouldn't, then it would roll over to 2021. We now know that that is rescheduled for spring of 2022. So that's just a little background. I did talk to you all at the retreat about my personal belief that we should make a bigger impact on the community with these funds. And so when I worked on the budget for 2021, we allocated $10,000 for these sponsorships. So I'm just going to go down the list of requests with you and give my recommendation just kind of as a starting point for your discussion. And we can discuss each one or whatever you'd like to do, but then at the end, have a total. So
Casey, can I jump in
Yeah.
real quick? And I just want to emphasize, we put recommendations in front of you truly as a starting point. This is a decision that the five of you need to make. We just felt rather than put nothing in front of you and say you have $10,000 to spend, that it would be more efficient if we gave you, we've got this laid out in a way where 9,300 of it is allocated, and then an additional 700 is for potential events at Legacy Square, as we'll talk about. But know that if the five of you want to do something different, that is absolutely appropriate. We just wanted to give you a starting point.
Well, we appreciate that, because there's been plenty of times where we've been up here talking it out, and it is really hard to do math verbally with five people. Like, it's
we're going to
just-
rely on Janet to do the math
Yeah.
today. So
it's nice to have somewhere to work from. So.
yeah. Okay, so the first request, and I put these in order of the event dates throughout the year, so just for perspective. The first request is from the Richmond Community Museum, and they are asking for $300. In the past, we have given them $300, so our recommendation is to fully fund this request.
And maybe if we just casually gather thoughts as we go down through each of these, And when we get to the end, we could just make a global motion based on the amount. So I would just ask, are there any thoughts or questions on this particular request? And we'll just work down through the list. Any concerns about $300 to the Richmond Museum?
I understand taking them one at a time and hate to jump ahead, but looking at other things on here, I think 300 is kind of commensurate with, yeah, so.
Okay.
Kate, the second request is for a Summerfest disc golf tournament, and this is put on by the Ottawa ORC. The Recreation Commission is funded by USD 290, but we do feel like an event of this sort is definitely has the potential of bringing in some people from outside of the community. I don't know if you're familiar with disc golf, but when I was in Emporia State, like, it's crazy down there. People come from everywhere. So I think us having a disc golf course here in Ottawa and just having an event of this sort can definitely has the potential to make an impact on tourism for us. So our recommendation would be $500. And I also, one of the thoughts or the application said that they would like to use this money to supplement sponsorships so that they can reduce the ask to our community. I would just recommend that they actually use these dollars to promote this to a broader disc golf audience. It kind of has more of an impact on tourism that way, so.
Is this their first time? Is this their first
I believe
annual?
they have had a disc golf tournament in the past, but it's been a few years, and they've also never asked for funds, so.
I think that's great policy to use the funds for advertising, so.
Was this gonna be in Forest Park or out of Kansas?
It's at Kansas Park.
Kansas Park. Are they getting any funding at all from 290 for this event?
For this particular event, I have no idea. At the city-county USD 290 meeting that they were at, he talked about the Summerfest event, and this is actually a collaborative effort of a lot of different organizations. I know the Chamber has stuff going on downtown, the ORC has stuff going on, like they're trying to get the whole community involved in things that same day. So I assume that they probably have some funding there to put on the event. Like I said, this application was just to lower their amount asked for sponsorships locally, is their thought, but I just recommend that they use it in a different way.
And Commissioner Dunn, that is a fair question. I mean, there are other events on here that, you know, have backing from the city of Ottawa. This is obviously backed by 290, and we discussed that and whether it was appropriate, but we didn't feel like that was necessarily should be an automatic disqualifier. I mean, there's nothing saying we can't use these funds for events that have backing from those entities, which is why we put the recommendation in front of you.
I think it'll be interesting to find out what kind of participation they have, and then in years,
Yep,
yeah, we
for
can maybe
future.
make a different determination.
Yeah. And all of these events that receive funding will also be asked to give us a report after the event, just for things like that, Ian.
We're all good with that one? Any objections?
Okay. The third one is the 4th of July Horseshoe Tournament. This is a small group that gets together at Forest Park every year and has a horseshoe tournament on the 4th of July. It kind of coincides with the Chautauqua Days Festival, but they have absolutely no, but they're asking for $300. We've actually given them $400 in the past, and I recommend that we give the full $300. That's. The Chautauqua Festival is Ottawa's big fireworks display, and they like to have a whole day of family-friendly events. They have seen lots of outside guests outside of the community coming in for our fireworks display, and they want to keep growing this event. In 2019, you can see that we gave them $700. The amount that we are recommending is $800, and that's really based on the totality of all the requests and what we feel like fits within the budget. So any thoughts on that?
And I think it stands to reason, but we got, we have $10,000 budgeted, and we got far more than that in requests. So we're just trying to apportion these in a way that we at least felt was fair. And so 800 is, it's not what they requested, but it is an incremental increase over what we've historically given.
I'm surprised we didn't, they had fireworks last year.
They did.
So I wonder why we didn't give them any last year, but anyway. Yeah.
No, I think that's a good amount.
I'm fine.
Good, okay. The Richmond Fair, and I will just talk about the fairs really quick because it's kind of been an issue in the past. The Franklin County Fair Board is a community partner. And so they apply for community partner dollars, but all of their funds for community partners comes out of TGT funds. And then a portion of the Franklin County Fair's application for community partners, those funds go to the Lane Fair and the Richmond Fair too. A very small portion, I will note. So moving forward, we would like to encourage all of the fairs to become community partners because that funding is still coming from TGT funds and it will eliminate their sponsorship applications. It's just going to take a few years because of the budget process to get there. And we don't want to take away any of their funds by any means. We just want it all to come from one place and not getting two asks and it to be so complicated. So to clean it up, so to speak. But our recommendation for the Richmond Fair is the $500 that they have requested. It's pretty in line with what they've requested in the past. The Richmond Fair does receive the smallest amount of funding through the community partner program. Any thoughts?
Fine.
Yep, good.
Okay. The Franklin County Fair, for perspective, like I said, is a community partner. They do receive a total of $12,100 as a community partner. So our recommendation is to not fund them with a sponsorship because they're already receiving a very large amount from the community partner program.
And that is paid in TGT funds.
Right.
So we're not telling the Fair Board that we don't want to give them TGT funds. Indeed, we are $12,000 worth. We're just trying to consolidate these requests and make the process a little more efficient. So.
Makes a lot of sense. Anyone have thoughts on that? Understand it?
I am kind of curious why we're giving the other fairs additional money and not the.
So the thought behind that is the Franklin County Fair, like I just said, receives $12,100. The Lane Fair receives a total of, let me find it, $1,200 from community partners. So there's just a huge discrepancy. And the Richmond Fair receives a total of $700 from the community partner program. So it's just such a huge difference. I know that there's a huge difference in the size of the fairs too, so that's completely up to you guys, but that's just our recommendation.
Well, and the other way we could do this is Richmond and Lane have historically gotten funding through these sponsorship requests. And what we're ultimately wanting to do is include, so between Richmond and Lane's coming up, but I believe it's $900 total. I think what we'll ideally want to do is just add that $900 to the community partners process and run them all through community partners, but that would involve an increase, and we've already let them know that for this year, for 2022, we're going to keep community partners flat, and we just didn't want to create confusion. We didn't want the other community partners to see that the Fair Board got an increase and maybe not understand why that was. So our thought was, for this year, we will continue to fund Richmond and Lane as a sponsorship, but we'll try to clean that up again incrementally as we move forward. If you followed me on that. This is not a deviation from what we've historically done.
It'll keep their funding flat.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Sounds good. Everyone else? Understand it?
Good.
All right.
Okay. The Wellsville Historical Society, they are actually hosting an event to raise money coming up for revamping their bank building, but they have historically received money just because they're a museum in the community or in the county. They have asked for $5,000. We have cut that, or our recommendation is $500, which falls more in line with what the other museums are receiving and what they've received in the past.
This one particular one, I kind of know about it. It is an ongoing process. I mean, and they're able to save this building. I know the city was wanting to tear it down a few years ago to get rid of it. So it's restored this old building. And I think with Elizabeth Layton Center, Elizabeth Layton is partners in this historical side thing. I think it's a good deal. I'm fine with it.
Any other thoughts?
So did they cite a specific event? I guess if we're just.
They're having a fundraising event this year, but in the past, we've given them, just like the Richmond Community Museum, they rely on some of our ongoing funding through this program just to do little upkeeping things or whatever it may be for their museums.
Different than this one and the others is they're in the process of making it happen, where the others are already established.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the main difference.
Yeah, they are effectively creating a tourist destination by upgrading this building, and that's what these funds are going towards.
And the museum is something that's, it's not a one-time thing. It's not like they're only open one day a year,
Right.
like some of these events. They're
Right.
open all the time.
Right. Yep.
All right.
Okay. Moving on, the Ottawa Memorial Auditorium is celebrating their 100th anniversary, and they are they're asking for funds to help fund a marquee outside of the Ottawa Memorial Auditorium. In my opinion, this has really taken off under their new leadership, and they certainly have the potential of putting beds or people in hotel beds and growing our TGT funds there. So I think it's a great thing for us to support. And my recommendation, I know they're asking for a lot more, is $500 just based on all the requests we've gotten and how it fits in with our budget.
I think Casey said that's right on the head. I think it was pretty poor situation a few years ago, and I think the city and the new leadership and they're using it a lot more for the public and the community. I think it's a good deal that they're saving that old building and trying to make it a community project. I'm for it.
Anyone else?
Agree. Anyone else? Sounds like consent. All right.
Okay. The Lane Fair, we kind of already touched on it. They are asking for $400. They do get $1,200 additional dollars through the Community Partner Program. So, and that's our recommendation, but completely up to you guys.
The same thing. So this is $400 that they would have previously got historically, like even to the visitor center.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will keep them historically flat.
Yep.
Right.
And again, we want to clean this up so that it's the same across the board, and we will. But for this year, by giving Lane and Richmond this money, we're literally keeping them flat.
Yep.
Okay. The next is the Power of the Past Tractor Show. Like I mentioned earlier, they did actually receive some money from us last year because they had a lot of money put into a show that they had to cancel, so we were trying to help them with that fund. But they have asked for $500. I feel like it's definitely a reasonable request for what the tractor show brings into Franklin County, and my recommendation is to fully fund that request. Of course, the car show, I think we can all agree that it probably has the largest impact on our transient guest tax funds and bringing people into this county. I'm not sure that anybody could argue that it's the biggest event that we have. And I want to make sure that we keep having that year after year. So we want to be able to help them how we can. They've asked for $5,000 this year. My recommendation is $3,000, just based on, again, our budget and the other requests that we have.
And just to be clear, these are only if they actually have the event.
Correct.
And I believe our correspondence, your
Yes.
correspondence to them indicated that.
For the application process, we let them know that these are all contingent that they can have the event. But then again, when we're actually sending out the funding, we'll try to keep it close enough to the events that we'll know for sure that they're able to have the event before we send it to them.
This does represent, I think, something of a philosophical shift from what tourism has historically done. And my understanding is that we didn't give a lot to the car show historically because it was already a big event and they didn't feel like it needed the help that maybe some of the smaller events needed. And I understand that rationale. This recommendation is based on the mindset that car show still needs help, and it's a massive event that, I mean, it by far, I think adds more to our TGT receipts than any other event. And so that's, the philosophical shift is, the bigger events that bring more money in, we're recommending potentially giving more help to if it is requested, and the car show certainly requested it. So, but as I said at the beginning, if the board doesn't agree with that, please chime in. At the end of the day, the five of you are who need to dictate the philosophy here.
I can kind of give a little number on it, I guess. The year before last, they had the rainstorm come through here, and it hurt them pretty bad. But they still continued all the outside entities that they give money to. And to kids going off to school, they give a lot of money to those kids and other organizations. They never cut that at all, even though they had a bad year. And then last year, we all know what last year did. And they still give away all the money that all the organizations and that they do every year. They never cut that at all. And they have made attempts this year to cut back their cost just to try and help. They're not planning on cutting back on what they give away, but they're cutting back on things that they offer. Maybe they have to show a few things and cut back a little bit on that. So that was the main reason for that one. And I think they only maybe got it 2 years before that. I think we donated to the trolley and that was basically
Right.
to promote downtown.
Right.
The trolley it wasn't to promote the car show. It was to take people from the car show that are here visiting and give them an avenue. And we did gift cards and so forth from downtown, and we actually would hand them out to people that got on the trolley. So they go in, automatically would go into that business with a gift card in their hand in the beginning. So that's where the money was used before. Now it's more to keep it going.
When we were only allocating $3,000, that was more of a nickel and diming. I don't think we were really making a difference, but I'm glad that we are being more open in what we're doing and trying to actually help.
Yeah, have more of an impact. Any other thoughts on the car show before I move on? Okay. Wellsville Days, I know that they've had this event for a long time. They're asking for $500. They did not apply for funds in 2019, but in 2018, they were given $400. And my recommendation is that we fully fund this request. This is just a good example of, there's a lot of small communities in Franklin County still, and they all have their own small event. It's the Richmond Fair, the Lane Fair, Wellsville has Wellsville Days. I know Williamsburg sometimes has Jayhawker Days, and we want to see those things keep going, so.
That was kind of a question I had. So Williamsburg does have their day, and I think Pomona does too, but they not, they just chose not to
Yeah.
request money?
And one of the things that we've done since creating Casey's position is I've asked her to be more proactive in reaching out to these organizations, and she has. I mean, but we.
Like their organizers are kind of not being very smart, but okay.
The Old Mary's Chili Cook-Off, this is put on by Peckham's Pumpkin Patch in Rantoul. They're asking for $100. We have historically funded this event, and my recommendation is that we continue to fund the full request. They do give 80% of their profits from this event to the Franklin County Cancer Foundation, so. Thoughts? Fall Harvest is an event done at Pome on the Range Apple Orchard, and they generate a lot of revenue and local tax dollars. They have local people come out and be vendors at the event. They're requesting $300 for advertising the event, and our recommendation is to fully fund that request. Anything on that? Next is the Ottawa Veterans Day Parade, and they have a full range of events. I mean, they put all the flags up downtown and work really hard just to make everything look great the first few weeks of November. In the past, they have actually applied for TGT funds, and then they also have come to the commissioners with a separate request. So we are trying to, just like the fairs, clean that up a little bit and only have one request. So they have asked the commissioners for $1,000, and this fully funds their past TGT sponsorship and their request that came to the commissioners separately. So our recommendation is to fund that request.
I only got one question on that one. I know always before, when some of the schools had the Veterans Day, did we do that from the commissioner's budget? Or, you know, like West Franklin had a Veterans Day at school, and Wellsville, and I know some of the other schools too. Seems like we had donated to some of them. Did those funds come from here or commissioner's
No, I
budget?
believe they came from the county budget.
It came from your commissioner's budget.
Okay.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do is just get all of that cleaned up. And this doesn't have to be something rigid, like if we miss something this year, like this is a work in progress. We're hoping that $1,000, and we'll have Casey communicate with them, Roy, to the extent that you have correspondence, you can communicate this with them. If something gets missed, I'm absolutely willing to let them come back in and make a request, but we believe that this will cover it. It just makes it a little cleaner.
Don, more to your question, the Veterans Day Parade is more of a bringing people into the community
sure.
for an event, where those two
That's
events that
what
are
I
held
meant.
at these school districts are for people within our county. They're not tourism related.
That's why I asked that question. I'm more than willing to do it. I just didn't know where it was coming from.
The next one is Memory Lane Light Display. This is also put on by the Pumpkin Patch, and their request is for $100 just for advertising purposes to promote the event. Seems they've had a lot of great turnout in years past, especially last year with COVID when people couldn't get out and do anything else. So they're hopeful to continue that momentum. So my recommendation is to fully fund the $100 request.
That's a little on the line, but they, it does something, it does bring in tourism. I agree there. They do put on a nice deal there. And I think a lot of the time, they even offer free to some organizations, to go to, some of the children's organizations, the 4-H club and so on. So it's close enough.
Okay.
Any other thoughts? Okay, and then the last request came to us from the chamber on behalf of Legacy Square. It was actually a large request that they want to use, or they're hoping for TGT funds to hire a marketing agency to help market Legacy Square to bring in big events. Personally, I don't feel like it's a great use of TGT funds. However, I think that there's going to be some events held at Legacy Square that could be a great use of TGT funds. So as you know, if you left everything with our recommendation, we're at a total of $9,300. And the thought is that we then have another $700 that then we could reach back out to the chamber and have a specific event request that's going to be held at the chamber. Or at Legacy Square, and we'd be more interested in funding a specific event than a marketing agency to market that event space.
What's the amount that we give Rhythm and Ride?
Rhythm and Ride asked for last year $2,000 to match a grant from the state of Kansas, and so we granted that request.
So would that be a yearly? So we don't have to do it this year. We don't have to do it next year because they already have it.
Right.
But in 2023, we're adding another 2,000.
Possibly. I don't know what that request will be. This was because the grant had a lot to do with our new trails and hosting that event here. So I'm not quite sure what their ask would be in the future.
Something we need to consider.
Yes.
Going forward.
Yes.
I think the county, it's obvious, the county supports Legacy Square, as is evidenced by the $75,000 donation of TGT funds that we've given that project. I would encourage the board to continue supporting Legacy Square. I think Legacy Square has a ton of potential to bring in great events to the community. And I've told Casey, I would encourage the board, I think we should always entertain requests from those specific events. This is not a request from a specific event. This would be creating an unnecessary pass-through, in my opinion, and we're happy to have this discussion with John. But certainly individual event requests, we will consider those, and we've left money in the budget to do that. And if Legacy Square starts thriving and there are more events, then we will look at adjusting this line in our budget to potentially accommodate those events. But I think that due diligence would dictate that we wait until we get requests from actual events that are going to bring in tourism. And that was the thought behind our request.
I agree. That's well put.
Any thoughts or concerns on this one?
I agree with that.
Well, you, as fate would have it, you all have approved our recommendations as stated. So if none of you have any additional commentary, then a motion to that effect would be, I make a motion to approve the TGT sponsorship requests as presented by the County Tourism Director.
I'd like to make the motion. I commend Casey laying this all out for us in history and other numbers, so we have a better idea. totally what we're voting on, so, and I hope we can make it a little better every year if we can. I'll make a motion to approve
I'll second it.
DGE funds. An amount of $9,300 for right now.
And I have a second from Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Harris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, thank you, Casey.
Thank
Well,
you.
well. Our second item of business is to consider committing funds for emergency relief project. And this will be presented by Public Works Department.
Good morning, Commissioners. Last Wednesday, the emergency relief project that KDOT is funding 80% of the project that went to bid through their letting. There were 8 bids that were received for this project, which is really a good thing. We're fortunate that a local company, Kilo Construction, was submitted the lowest bid of $259,554. Whenever you combine that bid with the construction engineering, which is the inspection component of that project, plus the federal funds that are going towards the project, we're left with about $58,000 worth of matching funds. And so the request today is to approve that so that we can move forward, so the project can move forward with construction here, hopefully soon, but they've got until, I think, October to get started. But first order of business is committing the funds. And we have the funds set aside through our Jackson Road bridge account that we pay for these types of projects out of.
Would you remind everybody about the project just briefly?
Okay, so almost every time it floods, the Pottawatomie Creek north of Lane gets out, floods over the road, and we have severe erosion that happens on the side of the road where the water is spilling over and washes away all of the bank and whatnot, and really gets into the road itself. I've heard stories of other events where it is actually washed out underneath the road, and we continue to repair this time after time after time. We were able to convince KDOT that this would be a great project to mitigate that. So hopefully in the future, we know that floods are going to occur. This project will hopefully mitigate any further erosion damage in that area. And so what we plan to do is we'll have a concrete embankment that will go down to a toe wall, and there'll be riprap on the other side of that, which should protect the road surface. So we're still going to get water over the road, but once the water recedes, we'll be in a much better position for the traveling public to get in and out of Lane. And as part of the project, we will keep traffic open. We'll keep one lane of traffic open with stoplights at either end because we know that the citizens of Lane, that whole area down there, that's their avenue out of town. And same for emergency vehicles getting into town. So we're going to keep that open even during construction.
All right, any questions for David?
I don't have a question, I just commend him for getting this done. It's something that's been going on for years and years and years. And I know the public down there will be very happy about the situation. And I know we had to riff-raff a lot in there and nothing but weeds and junk grows in there and you can't mow it, you can't do nothing with it. And it looks bad, so. I commend him for get it done. I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second?
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, our third item of business, Public Works Department has a 5-year equipment replacement plan for us to take a look at.
Commissioners, this morning I've got a couple of folks here with me to help answer questions. I've got Jeff Welton, our Road and Bridge Superintendent, Pat Campbell, the Solid Waste Superintendent, and Kirk Anderson, who is our shop foreman, to help answer any questions that you may have about our equipment. Just so you know, every year, each of our divisions, Public Works, or Road and Bridge, Noxious Weed, and Solid Waste, we all have, each one of those divisions has a spreadsheet that has all of our equipment listed, and we plan out about 15 years down the road of all the equipment and scheduled replacement times with estimated dollar amounts for those replacements. This gives us an opportunity to see large expenses coming and be able to make good planning decisions. And we put special emphasis on the immediate 5-year period. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about our recommended equipment replacement program for 2021. These priorities are based on the historic information and also current evaluation of the equipment with a look towards the future also. And so again, I've got folks here to help answer any questions that I may have. And so we'll start with the Road and Bridge Division. This year, the priority list includes about $550,000 worth of equipment purchases. All of these purchases will be paid with cash from our Road and Bridge Special Equipment Fund, which is a fund that we save money each and every year in our budget to be able to pay for these purchases. The next subsequent years, currently 2022, there are approximately $390,000 worth of purchases, 23, $95,000, and 2024, approximately $225,000. And at this time, we don't have any purchases scheduled for 2025. One of the considerations in looking at this year's equipment replacement is looking down the road at what's coming up. And we're anticipating in 2026 that we're going to have 4 of our 2014 Peterbilt in-dump trucks that are going to be ready for replacement. And we're looking at a price tag of about $780,000. And so we need time to be able to build up our reserves to be able to pay for that down the road. And so some of these purchases are with that in mind. So the first one I want to visit about is the 2009 sign truck. That truck has approximately 258,000 miles on it. The cab and chassis remain in good condition, and we've got plans for that. But the sign truck bed, this is the third cab and chassis that this bed has been moved to, and it's been on two so far, and it really is beyond its useful life. You can see by the pictures that it is simply worn out. This is an item that we talked about a couple of years ago, getting the bed replaced. The company that we were dealing with at that time, they're no longer in business, which necessitated a change in approach. And then last year, 2020, we would have moved forward, but with the unknowns around COVID, we pushed it back again. And so we would like to get that sign truck replaced. The cab and chassis we want to keep with the idea of pushing that down to replace it's a 1996 Kodiak that currently holds our chipper box and pulls our chipper whenever we have debris and whatnot that needs to be chipped up along the road. The Kodiak is not a very powerful truck and has difficulty even pulling the equipment that it has. And so we would like to move the Peterbilt truck down to that role. That will allow us to get more life out of the existing 2009 truck, and it will bring up our secondary fleet to a little higher standard. And we think we're in the process of getting some pricing for a new sign truck, and we've got programmed in $153,000. I think we're hopeful that we come in a little bit less than that, but our hope is to be able to move forward with that purchase here soon. Any questions about that particular piece of equipment?
I know I've had people in the past ask about, do we consider used equipment when we replace things? And I know at least one of these, there is a used component to it, but.
The philosophy right now is that the equipment that's going to be used on a daily basis, the trucks and whatnot, that is going to be used day in and day out. Whenever we buy used equipment, we get a few years potentially of decent use out of it. But a lot of times whenever you buy those used pieces, you're not getting a lot of good out of it long-term. And we try to keep these vehicles 10 plus years. And so if we buy used, we're going to end up with maybe a shorter time frame, and we really don't know, because we haven't had that piece of equipment in our fleet. We don't know all the ins and outs of that particular equipment. So right now our philosophy is let's go with new vehicles. And our secondary fleet, which I'm getting ready to talk about, a water truck, something that's only going to be used during construction season. Absolutely, we're going to look at a used piece of equipment, because, again, that is something that's going to sit on our back lot most of the year and then only be in use during specific construction assignments.
David, if I can jump in there, I think that's a great question. I think that's a question that, as a member of the public, like intuitively, like it's a good question, like why would we look at used equipment? But when you really start looking at trying to budget and responsible budgeting and creating, I mean, responsible budgeting is predicated on having a good equipment replacement plan. And it's hard to have a solid equipment replacement plan when you're buying used equipment, because it's just, you don't know as much about what you're getting. You don't have some of the warranty periods or the maintenance plans. And so we have had those discussions, but it's just, you can't create as solid of a plan, and we feel that ultimately we end up paying more dollars by doing that. And so we shop for the best price we possibly can, and there are certain pieces of equipment where it may be more applicable to look at used, but for the core of what we do, and in order to ensure that we can reliably budget for years moving forward, we've just come to the conclusion that new is just the better practice.
And especially on this one, the sign truck, the components is the big expense on that.
That is absolutely correct. The sign truck bed with the various components that we need for that setup, there's not very many companies that do those, and they are quite expensive. Mm-hmm. And we're, just so you know, with the sign truck, with the mechanic or the service truck and the tire truck that we're going to talk about here shortly, we are anticipating sourcing the cab and chassis for those separately from the beds. We have found that we can get a slightly better deal by doing that ourselves. So we're able to save $5,000 plus on each one of these, because we're not having to go through the company that builds the bodies to acquire the truck. And so we're able to go directly to, a Shawnee Mission Ford and get their bottom dollar Sourcewell price. So that saves us some money. So the next piece of equipment is we've got a 1978 Freightliner truck that holds our water tank. The idea here is to replace the cab and chassis with a late model used truck, and the water tank it needs some repair, that we can make those repairs while it's off the truck. We can pull that off and get the repairs made and install that on a new cabin chassis and be ahead in the game. Again, we're not looking at buying a brand-new truck due to the limited use that this vehicle would get, but it is certainly time to mothball this 1978 truck. And these vehicles that we plan to get rid of, we would declare those as surplus, and we would go through an auction process a little bit later in the year to get rid of these vehicles. So these aren't pieces of equipment that are going to hang around the yard.
42-year-old water truck with 369,000 miles, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and that paint job too, they don't make them like that anymore. It is awesome.
It might be worth money just because it's antique.
Exactly, exactly. So the next item is a 2009 GMC C4500 service truck. It has approximately 90,000 miles on it. This is something that, again, was originally scheduled to be replaced in 2019. We felt like 2019, it wasn't appropriate, and then last year, we were going to look at it again, but due to COVID, we pushed it off. We feel like this is the year that we need to move forward with this, partially in light of coming expenses down the road. We don't think that waiting and seeing prices increase would be the best situation for us. The body of mechanically, the truck is in pretty good shape. They have, within the last couple of years, they've done some maintenance work on it, and it's in good shape. The biggest problem with this is that it's really not set up for what we do today. We've got a 3,000-pound crane on the service truck that was installed by our folks. This bed was never meant to hold a crane. It doesn't have outriggers to stabilize the truck whenever we're picking things up, and it's not four-wheel drive. So those things those are problematic for us in certain weather events and certain sorts of repairs where the crane is just not heavy enough, strong enough to do the things that we need it to. And so we'd like to replace that with a Ford 550 Super Cab chassis with four-wheel drive, and we're speccing that with an 8,000-pound crane with a 29-foot reach. Currently, our crane has only a 15-foot reach at maximum, and it's not a telescoping crane. We have to physically add the pieces. We have to pin it to, yeah, so there's manpower to get that to telescope out. So it's served us well, but the equipment that that we have to maintain is getting larger, and we have more of it, and having the capabilities going forward to utilize a heavier crane. We have certain situations where having a bigger crane will help us in removing debris that's piled up along bridges and those sorts of things. We can hook that and pick it out of the way where currently we don't have that capability. And the truck that we're planning to replace it with would have the outriggers to stabilize it. And this truck we would declare as surplus and sell at auction. And currently we feel like we can get a price of less than $130,000 to replace that truck. And we've been programming $150,000 for several years now for this. So we feel like we're getting a fairly good deal on that. Are there any questions about the service truck? The next piece of equipment is our tire truck. And we had tossed around the idea of keeping the service truck that we just talked about as a backup, because there are times during construction season and during winter events and during mowing season, which might be our most intense use, where we're getting multiple calls to service our mowers and our equipment at different parts of the county. And the tire truck, as it's currently configured, just doesn't have the ability to haul the tools. It doesn't have a welder, and some of those things that we need on service repair projects. And so we are wanting to essentially have two trucks that are outfitted very similarly. So we would have essentially two service trucks that could both do tires and perform service maintenance around the county, which gives us a little bit better coverage and a little more responsive to our equipment operators out in the field, and get them up and running quicker, which allows them to produce more work. Currently, the 2008 F-350 flatbed, and mechanically it's in good shape, and our thought for that is repurposing. We have a heavy-duty water pump that we have to carry around from site to site on occasion, and we just auctioned off a 1987 truck that its primary duty was to carry that pump, and did that for years and years. Our thought now is to utilize this truck for that same duty, so that we have a reliable vehicle to get our pump to locations that we need to have it. And this truck too, it's got a 3,000-pound crane on it that we installed to help with changing tires and whatnot. It is undersized for the work that we're doing, and quite frankly, this bed wasn't meant to have a crane on it either. And I think we're experiencing some cracking. We have to buckle the back corner of that bed. Yeah. And so we're again trying to do too much with too small a crane. And so we would like to move forward with outfitting a new truck, very well, just the same as the service truck that we just talked about. And we feel like we can do that for under $130,000 when we had $150,000 budgeted for that. Are there any questions about the tire truck? Okay, the next piece of equipment would be new to our fleet. We continue to get more and more requests for installing entrances, and as you all know, we have taken care of a huge number of culverts and whatnot that we have replaced, and we've really ramped up the amount of ditching work that we do on a yearly basis. And we feel like having a new skid loader in our fleet would enable us to do more work with the same amount of people that we have. We did have a 1994 case backhoe that we've been using as a supplemental piece of equipment from time to time, but the mechanical issues with that finally led us to red tag that, and so it's no longer in use, and we plan to auction that piece of equipment as well. But the second skid loader, we feel like will allow us to do more ditching work, to do better finish work on our construction projects, and allow us to get into I think I already mentioned the ditches, but it will allow us to do more entrances and those sorts of things. We've got multiple folks that can operate this piece of equipment. And this item is actually one of the next agenda items. We have the opportunity to purchase a new John Deere 333G with attachments for just under $80,000. And we feel strongly that this will benefit our department and overall our citizens. Do you have any questions about?
So even though this is a new piece of equipment to our fleet, we're getting rid of a backhoe that we are not replacing.
That is correct. And so now we will have two, we still have a backhoe that's in great shape, and we still use it frequently. The skid steer that we have is getting some age on it, but it's still in good working order. We just got it back, had some repairs made to it recently. We've got it back, and we use that on a daily basis. We feel like the second skid steer will be used on a regular basis as well. And yes, we are getting rid of an older backhoe that really the backhoes are great for digging and some of those things, but it's not very good for a lot of what we do. It's problematic on ditching projects and entrances and those sorts of things. That concludes the road and bridge equipment purchases for this year, and that brings us to the solid waste division. The solid waste division, as you know, last year we purchased a compactor, and we also received, which I'm still very, very grateful for, Calmar providing us free of charge a terminal tractor that we use on a daily basis at the transfer station. In fact, this last weekend I was out there and I asked the operator what he thought of the new terminal tractor, and he said it's a Cadillac compared to what he had. So that is going very well. We do have a need to replace our 2016 Cat 420 backhoe. This is a machine that is used 6 days a week and currently has just over 6,400 hours on it. And if you've ever been in the transfer station and seen the material that they push around, it is a very tough working environment for both machine and man, but we feel like now is the time to replace the backhoe. We have not done, we haven't launched into the research, so I'm not exactly sure what kind of cost we're going to be looking at, but we'll certainly do that research. We've plugged in $130,000. I'm fairly confident that we can come in much less than that. This machine would be paid out of the special caps fund, so it's not really costing the taxpayers any money, not coming out of any general fund dollars. And we would trade in the existing backhoe. That's not something that we would keep. We would trade it in. Are there any questions about that? And that's the only purchase that we are anticipating for solid waste. And moving on to noxious weed, the only thing that we're requesting this year is replacing our salt spreader. The existing salt spreader is over 20 years old and is something that we fight continually during the winter months. The engine gives us fits, and we feel that we can move up to an electrical motor, spreader with an electrical motor that will be more conducive to working in the environment that it's going to be in for about $7,000. And so we would like to be moving forward with that. The next page shows the spreadsheet and the items that are scheduled for the last 5 years or the next 5 years. Plus, it also shows you the purchases that we've made over the last 2 years, so that you get that history of what kind of things that we have done. And then this is something that we update. I look at it several times a year, and we make updates at the beginning of the year, and then this is something that gets shared with you all.
Which we put in each year for our road and bridge replacement.
Currently, we're putting in just under $270,000 that gets transferred into that fund.
I was just looking at the end of the year of 2025 and what we're looking at.
Yes.
So
Yeah, no.
hopefully we don't have anything come up that unexpected that we need to.
Right, and that is the beauty of having a spreadsheet like that and taking a long-term view. We can see those things coming. There are things that come up that we have to deal with, but this provides some solid planning for us. And so that we can adjust our operation now to take care of things that might happen in the future.
All right. Brought us to the end of your plan, didn't it?
Yes, there's some information on the lease program, but again, we can cover that a couple of agenda items later, talking about motor blades.
It's simply a presentation. Any questions for David before we move away from the 5-year equipment replacement plan? Document we have and we can reference later also, so appreciate your presentation on that. Our next item is to purchase the skid steer, the John Deere skid steer you mentioned.
Yes, we have a quote from Murphy Tractor and Equipment for a new 2021 John Deere 333G high-flow compact track loader for an amount of $79,445. The list price on this piece of equipment is just over $101,000. There's some delivery charges and extended warranty, plus a multi-purpose bucket that brings, the total up there. But we do have a 30% discount off the list price, so we're saving about a little over $32,000, which brings the total purchase price to just over $79,000. And this will, again, be paid out of the Road and Bridge Special Equipment Fund. And so we would look for a motion to approve that proposal. And I will also mention that ordinarily I would have let a little bit of time lapse between presenting this proposal or this equipment plan and coming to you with equipment purchase options, but we're told that the price of this is going to go up after May 1st. And so we want to take advantage of the current prices and move forward now.
And I would add to that, a lot of data in David's 5-year replacement plan. Fantastic. That's the sort of topic that we would be glad to put on a study session as well moving forward. We just felt like we at least wanted to get that in front of you before we recommended a purchase pursuant to that plan. And because we have this April deadline that we need to do it, we thought we'd at least get it in front of you, get you the data today. But at any point, David and I are involved in a lot of discussions right now. I think we're going to be having a lot of public works related study sessions. So we are happy to revisit that plan at any point. But we wanted to get this in front of you so we could take advantage of the discount.
The other machine high flow?
It is not.
That's what we ran into when we got that mill we needed.
Yes. One of the benefits of going with this particular piece of equipment is the existing attachments that we have for the existing backhoe will fit and work on this piece of equipment. This bucket that we're getting will not work on the existing skid steer, but it's already got its own bucket, and so we're not losing anything there, but gaining the benefit of using attachments that we've already paid for was significant, and we've had really good luck with the skid steer that we have, and more than comfortable moving forward with this outfit. Plus, we feel like the price is really good as well.
Questions? Everybody comfortable with this?
Mm-hmm. I think if the county, everybody in the county, if we can do more ditch work, everybody's happy, so, yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. Next item's purchasing a couple motor graders.
Okay, so this is nothing new. For the last, during my time here, we've already purchased, gone through this process on five other motor graders. This year, we have 2 more that are due to be replaced. They have hit their 5-year anniversary to guarantee the buyback amount that Foley Equipment has with all of our purchases. And so each one of the machines, once you, the list price for each machine is $480,000. There's some delivery charges, but we do get a 30% Sourcewell discount off of that. We also have a customer loyalty discount of just under $35,000. And then the trade-in allowance that was in the paperwork associated with the 2 blades that we're going to send back to them of $131,000 brings the total for each one of the machines down to $200,718. With the terms of this agreement, these machines will have a $135,000 guaranteed trade-in allowance at the end of the 7 years or 9,000 hours. We've transitioned away from the 5 years, 7,500 to the 7-year, 9,000. We're finding that we don't have quite the mechanical issues. We're hoping that we don't have the mechanical issues in that extra 2 years. And it helps us to reduce our costs just a little bit. And so we are comfortable moving forward with this agreement for these 2 new graders. And if we order now, we're looking at September, October for delivery of the machines. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And the 140 all-wheel drive is very similar to the machine that we got last year. It doesn't have quite the bells and whistles, but it's still a bigger machine, better machine than the machines that we bought in 2019.
How long's the warranty on that?
The warranty is, we have a standard warranty of 12,000 or 12 months, unlimited hours, and an extended warranty of which will cover the 7 years and 9,500 hours. And so it'll be under warranty. Most of the machine will be under warranty that whole time. Is that true? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
They're basically 18 horsepower. Yeah.
So is this
Numbers from M's or to 140s, they went back to the numbering system. So and a little more weight.
But it's significantly more horsepower and heavier than the machines that we got a
the
few years ago.
120s, the dogs? Yeah.
We felt like those, at that time, that, the information that we had, that those would be suitable. After using them for a period of time, we have more information and feel like it's appropriate to step up to the bigger machines.
All right. David said we've done this before. Would anyone like to make a motion to authorize the purchase of 2 140 all-wheel drive motor graders per the quote in front of us? That amount is $200,718 after trade-in allowance for each machine.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. You got machines, David, or?
Yes, but that
Back in front of us
will,
later.
yeah, we'll do that probably August, September is when we'll start into that process. And I don't expect any payments to be made on these until 2023.
there any plan for us to move away from financing our motor graders? I mean, obviously, we want to not have any debt eventually ever, but it'll,
I have not studied that, but I am certainly willing to see, how that would affect our budget and what that transition would look like.
right now, interest rates are low, it's not an issue, but
And I think that's something we would happily explore. I would agree, right now's maybe not the time, given that, but yeah, I mean, each year at budget time, the board has the opportunity to, I mean, we would have to make some budget tweaks, obviously, but absolutely, we could explore
to me,
that.
that's somewhat low-hanging fruit compared to, we're not looking to pay cash for a new jail or anything crazy like that, but this is something that maybe we can move away from.
Yep.
All right. Our next item is to consider entering into contract negotiations with CSC Engineers to provide design and permitting services for the expansion of our demolition landfill.
Yeah, so last Monday, we had SAS kind of walk through their expansion evaluation study that they did for us, and they went through extensively kind of what the next steps look like. I would like to go ahead and get that process started so that we have plenty of time to work through any issues, answer any questions. There were some questions that kind of came up during the process that maybe we need to look at a bigger expansion. Those things can be explored as we start this process. The volume that we have received at that C&D landfill has, we've talked about that extensively. It's jumped up quite significantly over the last 4 years, and the first quarter totals put us on par with around 11,000 tons again this year. And so, I don't want to wait a couple of years to enter that process to start permitting, because I don't know for sure what is coming. So if we see really high volumes, that 7 to 10 year window that we have left with our current permit could shrink. And so I don't want to be rushed for time. I would like to have a solid plan in place so that we can take care of, we can get the permitting out of the way, and then we can take care of construction items at an appropriate time, and we can see those things coming, and we can set aside dollars and plan for those expenses today rather than at the last minute down the road if we wait. And so I would like to move forward with SCS Engineers. They have a long history with Franklin County, and I would like to enter into, start negotiating a contract for them to handle this permitting process for us.
And to be clear, David, you are talking about permission to start negotiations. A final contract and amount would come back before the governing body for their approval.
Correct. I just want to start that discussion, and then once we've kind of agreed on terms and whatnot, come back before this body with the details of that contract, the scope of services, and the fees associated with that, so that we can have another thorough discussion on how we want to move forward with that. But I'm hesitant to let a lot of time go by here without getting started on this.
Was there any more thought, and Colt brought this up, on permitting the whole deal? Maybe do like a phase 1 and a phase 2? That is one of the things that I would visit with them about, so that they put more analysis into that. One of the things that they mentioned would be if we go forward with that and try to permit a larger space, maybe all of it, we have to have a plan in place for where that transfer station and scale house and those items would move to be able to facilitate that. And we would have to have that plan in place today. We wouldn't necessarily have to, obviously we wouldn't move it today, but we have to have the plan in place and to know what we're going to do before that day comes. And based on those conversations at that study session, I intended to make that part of our
negotiation here, one of the scope of services to look at that.
Okay, thank you.
We, in their defense, we were pretty adamant that we try to stay on our existing site when they were doing the evaluation. So there wasn't, because they figured a way to get us a greater length of time, a significant length of time, we did not investigate other things. So it was limited in scope once we determined that we could get potentially another 50 years out of our current location without moving the scale house and the transfer station. Even though those buildings obviously aren't going to last another 50 years, we'll have to someday rebuild or move.
So the other thing that would increase our life expectancy would be to decrease the volume that we have per year. Have we considered that at all? I know the more volume we have, the more money we make, but eventually that's going to cost us a lot of money, that extra volume.
Yeah, how you could do that is potentially raising the rates out there, but that is, and I think it's important to note that all of the expenses and all of the operating expenses, all of that stuff that we're talking about is coming from the revenue generated by the folks that are delivering material out there, both to the transfer station and to the C&D landfill. So to limit that, we could, currently we allow anybody from any county to come to our landfill. I know some counties don't allow folks from out of county to utilize a facility. You could raise fees, those sorts of things. But I think that at least as far as I'm concerned today, this is a service to our region. They're not building new landfills very easily anywhere, and having this allows us to put that material in the proper place, and it eliminates or reduces, I'll say, the amount of trash and material that are dumped on our roads, which is still a significant problem. But if we were to start, restricting some of that, I think we would see more. Jeff spends probably 10% of his time now picking up trash along the roads, and I could see that very easily going up if we try to be too restrictive. Now, I fully believe that we need to look at our landfill fees and evaluate those periodically, especially in light of future construction costs. I think we have a little bit of room to raise those fees without negatively impacting the public to a great deal, but those are all conversations that we'll need to have at some point down the road.
Going well. Activity, especially at the construction and demolition side of the landfills, a byproduct of the economy, which is
Correct.
going well. And the revenue from there allows us to do a lot of other good things, so.
Yes.
All right. The item in front of us would be to agree to enter into contract negotiations with CSC Engineers. Of course, the product of that would come back to us for approval, but is there interest in entering contract negotiations with CSC Engineers for the expansion of the landfill?
I would make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to staff reports. Derek?
Yeah, I do. I want to start. We just had a lot of public works related items, and David has a lot of his management staff here. Kirk, Jeff, Pat. I know that David relies upon them heavily in conducting all of this analysis, and I know these three gentlemen, it isn't why they don't do the job that they do for recognition, but I do want to recognize them because they're fantastic employees. They're all passionate and they really care about what they do. And I think David does a great job, but David has a great team underneath him. And so it's not often, we don't get a lot of county employees that come to these meetings, so certainly want to recognize and hope that the board appreciates the value that they bring, because you guys do a great job, so appreciate that. We had our first in-person department head meeting yesterday. And it was just meant really to get the team back together and recap where we're at post-COVID. Thought it was a productive meeting. And just want to say I'm really proud of the county's leadership team. COVID has not been an easy thing to manage through. COVID's been hard on relationships internally, but all things considered, we fared incredibly well. I think we're in a great spot now moving forward, really by any available metric. I think you're already seeing, new growth. Just think of what's been in front of you today, some of the projects that we have in the hopper. And so appreciate that group. We've talked so much about COVID and the COVID team, but there were a lot of department heads who weren't necessarily part of that team, or elected officials that weren't necessarily part of that team that we relied upon every single day to manage their departments, to keep performing county services. And every one of them did that well. And so it was a good meeting, and pleased with them, and I'm pleased with the platform that we're standing on. Feel like it's a great place to launch us moving forward. And so that's really all I have today. Casey, do you have an additional update?
I don't have much of a vaccine update because there's not too much going on, and I'm going to defer to Nick to talk about how they're administering vaccines now, because I believe it's changed again. But we have given 10,550 doses of the vaccine total. That's, again, just the health department. And we have fully vaccinated almost 5,000 Franklin County residents. So between Johnson & Johnson and our two-shot system, the health department has fully vaccinated almost 5,000. We're like 30 people short of 5,000. So our number looks promising. I had a call yesterday from a gentleman who was trying to ask me a lot of questions about, like, how many children are in our population, what do you think our total percentage is, and we had a great conversation, but it's just really hard to tell without knowing, Price Chopper and Walgreens and Walmart and all those numbers. So that's where we're at with COVID. But the other thing is, I just wanted to touch on really quick the visitor center. Dr. Budd has given us the go-ahead to open it up. So I do plan on reaching out to all of those all of the volunteers individually to see who's available, what that's going to look like, and I'm going to try to get them together just for a quick meeting next week, like coffee one morning, and so that they can get to know me better and I can kind of determine what's their schedule. But as far as the visitor center hours go, because we need to look at that and how we can best fill it. Do I need to come back with a request?
Yeah, I think that that's one of the decisions that we'll ask the five of you to make. Some of the hours are going to be predicated on volunteers, obviously, but I do think now would be a great opportunity for the five of you to review hours. How many do you want that place open? 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week, and just have those discussions. So I would anticipate that being the topic at a future study session.
Well, we've had a director that's been out there when there weren't volunteers. We think, or at least I do, I think it's good where you are. I don't want you out there to be there in case there wasn't anybody, so we need to figure all that out.
Sure. And I can kind of pull some things together. I mean, is Monday too quick to have that discussion?
We can talk about it. If not Monday, it doesn't have to be a study session.
Okay.
If not Monday, we can have it just at a Wednesday meeting thereafter.
Okay.
so.
And then lastly, I was just going to bring up, because at the previous study session, we talked about the Historical Society and forming a committee. So we do, just for the other commissioners' perspective, we have our first meeting of that committee tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So we should have an update for you after that. Anything else? That's all I have.
Nick.
Yep,
Nick is
Nick's
on.
online. Forget about that. Nick. Go ahead.
You're muted.
Nick, you're muted, bud.
No, he's unmuted himself. We're just not hearing him. Let's give
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
All right, Nick.
Hello?
Yeah, here you are. We got everything figured out on our end. Go ahead. We'll come back to Nick. Try. Can you hear us, Nick? Nope, doesn't sound like it.
He hung up.
Sounded like it, but he's still on the. Tell you what, I'll give you a second there, Dustin. Let's go to David.
Okay, so Kello was able to finish all of the overlay work last week, so that looks really, really good, and those roads are going to be in good shape for years to come. We have had our crews working on all the entrances to kind of bring that gravel up to grade so that there's not a 2-inch hump right at the edge of the road. So we've been working on that. I have been, the city of Ottawa has been working with KDOT on behalf of a downtown business owner that would like to improve. Ultimately, the citizens' wish is to drive more traffic to the downtown business area. And one of the ways that the city and KDOT feel that we can make that happen is to improve signage on the new 59 highway before it gets to the turnoff to come down Old 59. And so I've been in one conversation with that about that, and we've got some more that we need to have because the potential new signage would put more traffic on Old 59, which is our responsibility. KDOT's going to ultimately want a letter of support for that. So we've got, we're still discussing some options and the associated costs with that. So I'm not ready to move forward with the letter of support, but I did want to, alert you that this will be coming back before you at some point, just to get approval to move forward with that. So as I have more information, I'll be sharing that. We were also notified, and this could be a big deal. We were notified yesterday by one of our metal culvert pipe vendors that prices are getting ready to double and in some cases triple with regard to specialty pipe. We're told that it's due to rising material costs, which we're seeing that all over the construction industry. And then obviously the supply and demand of that pipe. So we haven't verified this with our other vendors, but it is something that is worrisome. Fortunately, right at this point, we have earlier this year, we did a big order of pipes, so we have a lot on hand currently, but we are getting entrance requests on a weekly basis to put in new entrances. I mean, we're getting 1 or 2 or more a week, and that's been going on for quite some time. So we're anticipating running through that quite quickly, and so we're going to, Jeff and I and other staff, we're going to look at what we've got. We're going to, in May, try to place another order of some of our most commonly used pipe sizes so that maybe we can beat the price increases and have a little bit more on hand. One thing that I would like to consider stop doing is currently we sell pipe to citizens to use off right-of-way on their own properties. And we have just a small 10 or 15% markup on that pipe. If prices go through the roof like that, we might want to consider stopping that practice just so that we have pipe on hand for us to do the things that we need to do for our citizens. So that's something that.
How many do you actually sell?
I don't have, I just got this information this morning, so I haven't had an opportunity to find that out, but.
Handful a year, probably.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount.
When you only have 12 on stock, you know, and
Yeah.
they're shopping around looking for the lowest price, and if they can get it low,
Yeah.
they're gonna try.
It's just something to consider. We haven't seen the price increases, so we don't know what that magnitude is, but again, I want to bring it to your attention so that if we need to make an adjustment.
Have we done any looking at, like, I know, Pittsburgh, County, down there, that they're in, they've switched to polypropylene?
Oh, we haven't explored that yet, but it is on our list of things that we want to accomplish this year, is to really study that and bring information to you in a study session format to see if we want to change our county standards and in what circumstances we would want to utilize that type of pipe. I believe that personally, I believe that there are uses where it would be appropriate for us to do that. And certainly, folks using that kind of pipe off right-of-way would be a great idea. So that'll be an upcoming study session item, hopefully sometime this early summer.
You're seeing it a lot on the engineered things for years now in the private construction. I can see a pipe like polypropylene, I think, has a longer life, especially if we were putting it under a paved road. That would start to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I've got great interest in studying that issue. It just hadn't risen to the top just yet due to other things. And then the last thing, actually, I want to talk about free dump days, but I'm going to let Pat Campbell, our solid waste superintendent, come up and kind of give you a rundown of how the month went and whatnot.
Good morning, Commissioners. Of course, y'all know April was our free dump month for all the communities in Franklin County. Had a really good show. First off, I want to thank City of Ottawa for letting us have a couple employees last Friday and last Saturday. We had 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, to help us out there at the transfer station unloading the people as they come in. Really appreciate that. Of course, I want to thank our own employees. We had road and bridge people, of course, had all the solid waste people out there also. The 3 employees out there, they've had a whale of a month. It's been busy, busy, busy. And like saying, they've worked out there 6 days a week all month with no days off. And we usually try to rotate a day off for them, so we're not getting a lot of overtime. Well, it just wasn't possible in the month of April. As far as totals for like the cities, the individual cities, the city of Princeton had four roll-offs come in. Richmond had 5. Pomona had 4. Williamsburg had 5. Lane had 4. Rantoul had 2. And of course, Wellsville had 14. And of course, your biggest one, City of Ottawa, with 46. That made a total of just over 218 tons that we brought in, and that all went to the transfer station. None of it was C&D because can't sort it out there. That would be if they had to pay for the income at $41 a ton, that's $8,950 that we donated to the communities for a cleanup. On Friday and Saturday, it's tougher to gauge because we don't actually scale everything. It's just physically impossible for as far as the schematics of it out there. We had people out there, just say, you need to go up here to dump or over here to dump. You go up to the building and dump. It's a wild guesstimation. On Friday, we were there from 8 to 3:30. Had about 65 vehicles on Friday. And then on Saturday, it was 8 to 1:30. Had approximately 125 vehicles. And it was pretty well split half and half between the hilltop and the building. It was, like I say, so it was really good turnout. Like I say, it was a good service we did for them. Like I say, I appreciate everything you folks did for us. Look forward to do it again next year.
Something I was thinking about the other day, constantly have, groups, civic groups, whatever, looking to raise money, try and gain money for whatever. And with your staff out there seeing a lot of volume, they're kind of pushed to the max.
Sure.
Seasonal help's all but impossible to find. So there's things like picking up trash along the roadway that I understand I don't know where they would find time to do that. It would be well within their spending limit, but if you had like a ball team or whatever that wanted to make some money, I would think the department head could, $500 to clean that 1.5 miles of road or something, you know what I mean? Maybe we look into that, I guess, but I understand there's some liability things and we need make sure they're safe with doing it, but adopt the roadway type thing.
We actually, on Saturday, while we were out there, we actually had a brief discussion about doing something about that, and we didn't talk long about it, but we recognized that having a third party, whoever that third party might be, come out there and help us with that from time to time would be a good idea. So we'll delve down into that. We hadn't thought of civic groups, but certainly that's a good idea and something that we can explore.
Yeah, and these 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds is not helping a thing.
No, it's going to be constant.
Yeah, it is. So, all right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know about the rest of them, I'd like to get a copy of all the numbers and figures.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'll email them to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Do
no
you have
problem.
any idea how it compares to years past? We didn't have it last year.
Didn't have it last year, and
years.
it was down a little bit from what 19 was, but it was up from what 18 was. I didn't delve into the numbers real deep, but it was down a little bit from 19.
Having the roll-offs in the towns and doing that spread out over the month that we do definitely has an impact on what we see that last Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, because when I was here previously, which would be 4 or 5 years ago, they were not placing these roll-offs in town. And when I rolled out there at 7:30, it was on a Friday, I worked out there, and there was cars already lined up a 1/4 mile on Osborne Terrace waiting to get in. And it was that way all day long. And they end up being backed up over 1/2 mile on Osborne Terrace, plus having all of our, in that full there, plus all your trash trucks coming. So the roll-offs in the communities is wonderful. And, and the communities are very happy to do it. I've had real positive feedback on it from them also.
And those are provided by the roll-offs?
The cities pay for their own roll-offs for the dumping. We take care, or for the picking up, we take care of the dumping. So they don't get charged for that. They just have to pay the middle person to get them from there to here.
Since we don't have the roll-offs, they contract with private companies to provide those roll-offs, and we do it in an organized manner spread out over the month. That we get in by the totals, you can see that there's a lot of waste that comes through, but those communities are only paying for the roll-off, so it's a benefit to their citizens and really a benefit to all of us.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, what are we gonna do about, you have Nick's
Yeah,
information?
Nick's been in contact. I'll give his update. Have 14 current positive cases of COVID. We are in the process. Our demand for vaccines has dwindled to the point where we're going to move them into the health department and spread them throughout the day. Yeah, as you know, we've done large clinics at the middle school. We've done large clinics at the bottle house. Obviously, we had a huge demand then. We recently experimented with giving vaccines out from the trailer in the parking lot. And certainly we were able to do that, but in taking a closer look, we didn't. It took a lot of resources, and we feel like this would, given where we're at in terms of demand, this would be the better way at this point, is just bring them into the health department, spread them throughout the day, and just administer them there like we would most of our other vaccines. Bear with me, I'll see what else
Is there a point where we really just don't need to give them anymore ourselves? Because they're so readily available everywhere?
In theory, I don't know, when we're promoting as many vaccinations as possible, I don't know what the incentive would necessarily be for us
I think I
to.
understand, we don't want to be competing against the private side if it's readily available, but I imagine it would, and it is moving towards more like a flu shot now, where we
Yeah.
wouldn't want to not offer it. There's obviously a public health thing there, but there's no longer the need to do the big drive-ins, and it sounds
Yeah.
like we're there.
I think that's pretty well where we're at, yeah. We'll continue to offer it, but yeah, I wouldn't, we're literally not trying to compete with the private sector, we'll just
The
offer
only thing
it.
is, though, once you open a vial, you need to use, it has, I mean, if it was just one dose, it'd be fine, but if you have to use so many, are we really getting enough to use them?
They're making appointments. I think moving forward, we might just have to start saying, we're gonna have vaccines on Tuesday, May, whatever. Like to make an appointment. Advertise our next vaccine day is gonna be, so that we can make all those appointments in the same day.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic question, Ian, and we had that discussion on our most recent COVID team call. And we're all concerned about waste, and obviously, we will strive to limit the amount of waste, but we're kind of at that stage of the game where it's just impossible to be perfectly efficient with it, and certainly we know that's happening on the private side, that there's doses that are being gotten wasted. It's just, and I don't know how any way around it other than what we're trying to do by just setting a couple days a week and just trying to get blocks of people in to do that. Walgreens, my understanding is they are now offering vaccines to those 16 and up. And then the last thing that Nick had was Robert Walker, who was the assistant director in the health department, is retiring this month. And so he's given everyone in the health department, the health department has been at the center of the county's response, and obviously all the staff over there have worked very hard and should be commended for that. And Robert certainly played a valuable role in that process. So
This month as in April?
yes.
Oh, wow.
So we wish him well in his retirement and wish him all the best. And that's all I have, Colt. Thank you.
Thanks. Janet, anything? All right, commissioner comments, board reports, Don?
Yeah, last Thursday, we had, Solid Waste Authority had their annual, meeting. We did it by Zoom. And, some of the things, we discussed and changed with some of our bylaws. J.R. McMahon from Miami County was reappointed to the Board of Directors, and I was appointed back as chairman of the Management Committee. Main thing the Management Committee does is the grants and approve grants and go after grants. And it was presented to us that we are applying for the $7,500 grant for Franklin County. Lynn County Schools is doing a recycling program for Lynn County. I don't know the total dollars on it, but we applied, we kind of go through for them with what we are. We co-sign on it and put our stamp of approval. We think it's a good program. And then another one we did was Lake Mary Center. They're actually doing the grant, but there's another one where we do a letter of approval, that we approve it's a good deal. And really, Lake Mary is somebody we just really kind of got tied to since our new coordinator found out that they're really into recycling in a couple of counties, and their clients that are there at the center they do a different kind of recycling than we do. They actually do a recycling where you take things apart and salvage this and that. And but anyhow, we're help doing a sign up a grant for them. Our coordinator did a grant, which I'm hoping, she sent out letters to all the communities, so they're all aware that none of them are really taking advantage of it. But the city of Osawatomie, we got a grant for them for recycled benches in their parks. I think like 16 benches we got, and they're pretty high dollar, those recycled benches. And the city of Lewisburg, we did picnic tables for their parks through a recycling grant. So there's several others we're looking at. One of them is for aluminum recycling, like a $5,000 to $7,000 grant for their recycling of coalition for foam, just like throwaway cups and it's like a $300,000 grant. We're just investigating all these. And another one is MFA Oil Company, and it's more about educating the youth on recycling is basically what it's for. And the next meeting, if we have one face-to-face, will be in this room on July the 15th. The decision will be made at a later time of whether it's permissible and we can do it. But we did reserve the room that's on a Thursday on July the 15th. Anybody's welcome. That's all I got.
All right. Rod, anything you add?
I have none to add, Cole.
Last Wednesday, we had our meeting with the City of Ottawa and USD 219 County. It was the first time that we had the option of meeting in person, and most people did. It really made a difference, I think, in the meeting to be together. And it was a good meeting. Last Thursday, I went to the Southeast Kansas County's regional meeting, and that was, where were we?
The Yates Center.
Yeah, Yates, okay.
County.
It was south. It was actually the first time I had been, and it was a little different than our fall meeting, but it was good to get to just be with our group, and really truly as a Southeast Kansas, we can help promote each other and tourism and the different job opportunities and all those things. So, and I'm not sure it was good or bad that I went, but during that meeting, it was mentioned that the Southeast Kansas no longer had a representative for the KACC, and so I am now the Southeast Kansas representative for KACC. I did get to ride with the appraisers and our mapper. It's kind of interesting to ride with them because you'll be going down the highway and they'll go, oh, that property has more grain bins we need to find out about. So anyway, it was a good day.
Just so everyone knows, we did have 11 people from Franklin County go, which was a really good turnout. There were a lot of folks there, but a lot of counties were missing, so I think we were well representative, and we did break down into our individual groups, so it is an opportunity for each group to meet individually. I know some of you guys have went, and it's good to go and keep those relationships going like I am.
So it looks like I'll be in Liberal in June, so if anybody wants to ride with me, that would be fine. Larry Walrod, some of us were at his retirement celebration on Saturday. Those are the kind of employees that you can't believe they're going to be gone, because how in the heck are you going to replace them? But anyway, it was good to be able to honor him, and it was a really nice turnout for that. And I think that's all I have.
All right. Roy?
Well, I went to the luncheon last Wednesday at noon, and I thought it was a very interesting luncheon, especially with the school district's perspective on having an enrollment of about 150 students left this year, and what it cost them to have less than enrollment. I thought it was a pretty interesting meeting. Then I attended the Zoom meeting with Don on that Friday, and the benches and the picnic tables, they were all recycled tires, made out of tires for these deals. One other thing that we're promoting is collaboration with all the region and the recycling programs. Just maybe find out places to that take recycling products. There might be a collaboration with all of them that they could supply, get a better return on recycling was one of the things they were trying to do. That's about all I got.
All right. I don't have anything I need to add either. I did, it made me think of the FCDC board I'm on. Paul, I skipped over you. Do you have anything?
Morning, it's good to see everybody.
Yeah.
Quick update, we have had a lot of activity. It's picked up since the 1st of January in a number of areas, but we were runner-up in a contest for an industry a couple of weeks ago. We still haven't heard where they went, but really the only reason that we've heard that we didn't get it is they just felt a little more comfortable with the workforce availability in the other market than in this market. But they really liked us in the live proximity park and had a nice package for them. So again, workforce continues to be an issue that we're working to address. I have two businesses that have indicated they're going to do a site visit to Proximity Park in May. So hopefully those will come to fruition and we'll have some good success there. I did have some investors in town just yesterday, spent the day with them, and they're looking at putting a business in on the North Industrial Park, and which would be supported to our workforce. About all I can say on that, but it's a pretty promising opportunity for us, and had a real good visit there. So that was exciting, and just want you to know there's a lot of good positive activity. I was just on the phone with another, texting back and forth, another developer up in the city that wants to come down and visit and see our park. And we're starting to see more of that, where the developers are now seeing Proximity Park as an opportunity. So we're doing a lot more of those show and tell meetings in the last few weeks and into May. So activity's picking up and it's very positive. We do have a strategic planning session scheduled with the city of Wellsville on June 9th. Don will be there, and Derek, as soon as you guys get done with your meeting that day, we're going to meet up in Wellsville. Hired the Docking Institute out of Fort Hays to run that session, so that'll be a half-day session to kind of help the city of Wellsville work through strategic initiatives for infrastructure and business development and finance of how they want to do their infrastructure, as well as maybe even some staffing additions to the city. So we'll see how that goes. June 11th, we have a panel on hiring and workforce recruitment and retention, and we're going to be hosting that over at Ottawa University. So we'll be getting invitations out to that probably later today. And I am working on where we will start to have, for those that are comfortable, we'll have a little social event, an opportunity network on a monthly basis, and we'll just meet at 5 o'clock down at the corner market and let people kind of catch up and network. And so we'll start to have those activities as people feel more and more comfortable. But a lot of good positive activities, what I wanted to share with you today. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. All right, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Anyone need to say anything? All right, I need a motion to adjourn then.
I just had one other thing. Don didn't mention it, but Don was working with David Lee about location for a cargo container out there at the transfer station side for Adopt a Bike program. And David gave a good presentation during that meeting about that. So get that in one of these days.
Right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks.